Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to some Lost in the Pond, and this one is 7 things Brits should know before visiting America. And that's pretty much it. Let's just jump into this video, hopefully you're going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon where you can see reactions that I can't post to YouTube, movie reactions, TV series, all that good stuff. There's more to come, there's loads on there. And yeah, if you're interested in that, links are there. If not, let's jump into this and see some of these things Brits should know.
Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to travel. Specifically, travel between the two countries. And today, in what is the start of a two-part series, I will be giving my British subscribers some advice on what to know before travelling to the United States. And I know what you're thinking, ooh, Lawrence, I thought you didn't like giving unsolicited advice. And I don't. My team are making me do this because I'm a British and American citizen and therefore some sort of expert. And so since I have visited both countries on 4 billion different occasions, I suppose I might as well tell you what I've learned. And if you're watching this video and thinking, who the heck is this guy? That probably means you're not subscribed to this channel. So I've just got 2 words for you. Do that now. That's 3 words. In the meantime, here are 7 things that British people ought to know before visiting the United States.
Airport.
One thing that I'll never get used to is being touched up and down by people in rubber gloves. And this is especially true in airports. And that, unfortunately, was the best way we could think of to segue into airport security. And don't get me wrong, nobody in either country likes the drudgery of having to haul your suitcase onto a conveyor belt only for a stranger to open it up and reveal to the world your collection of tubes.
Dear God.
I'm talking about my camera equipment, you dirty little... But pound for pound, I'd say that this process is a little less stressful in Britain. You see, it's often noted that American airport security is little more than theatre. And I don't mean that all of the agents start singing Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean that it's all for show. Take off your shoes. Why? Are you inviting me into your house? Make sure all of your electronics are in a separate tray. People think it's easy being a YouTube sensation. And then when you're done with all of that, make sure you pull your trousers back up after they fell down because you removed your belt. To be fair, that happened to me in British airports too. And then there's American immigration officers who sternly ask you questions like, what is the nature of this visit? What's your mother's maiden name? What's in the box? That was Brad Pitt in 7. My advice to you there is don't panic unless you're Gwyneth Paltrow. Again, it's theatre. Speak calmly, truthfully, and don't forget to project! Not that kind of theatre. People say to me, Lawrence, I want to visit America, and when I'm there, I want to see New York City, the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls for some reason, Texas, like the whole state, and then Disney World. Well, I've got news for you. Unless you plan to be here for 6 months or you own a time machine, that's not going to happen. Because that would be like 10,000 miles of journey time. So when visiting the United States, it's a good idea to pick one kind of micro-region. Then once you've got that down, figure out how you're going to get around. After all, I'm sure you've heard me mention before that America isn't as good as Britain when it comes to trains, buses and broomsticks. Depending on where you are in the country, your best bet is probably to rent a car. Then of course you'll have to contend with driving on the opposite side of the road, operating a larger vehicle than you're used to, and having no idea what some of the road signs mean. Either way, it's important to figure out all of this before visiting the United States so that you don't end up stranded on the interstate thumbing down vehicles like it's the 70s. I mean, that's how I met Chainsaw Jim, and I no longer have a shed. In this 21st century world, there's a good chance that when you visit America, you'll be bringing with you a little something called electronics. This might be a laptop computer, a mobile phone, or other things that vibrate. Either way, at some point, there's a good chance that you're going to need to insert it into a plug socket. And here's the thing, on either side of the pond, plug sockets look different. How do I know this? Because I did a video all about it, and I've lived in both countries. Basically, American plug sockets are completely and utterly a little bit smaller than British ones. Additionally, while most...
It does fascinate me how US plug sockets, you can have 2 types that work. One that doesn't go in the bottom hole, and then one that does. I don't know if there's a reason for that, I can't remember, but it's just fascinating that you can just have 2 different plug types.
Some do have 3 holes, some only have 2, and I'm still talking about plug sockets. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, because your British plug sockets will not fit into those holes. And you might be thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? How do I edit my videos while on holiday? If you're a content creator. If you're not, then just ignore that example. The point is, just like in your year 9 chemistry classes, there is a solution. That solution is a converter that you plug into your plug like that, and then that bit goes into the wall, and then you get the American electricity-ness. And now you might be asking, where can we get these, Lawrence? And the answer is simple. On the World Wide Internet Web. And on that subject, the World Wide Internet Web is where 1/3 of Americans like to do their shopping. And more than 10 million of those shoppers are doing this more cost-effectively by using our sponsor today, Capital One Shopping.
Go on, secure that money. Secure the bag.
We can get the extension at a discounted rate. And you know what? I'm not going to do that because the extension is completely free. In fact, upon signing up, 30 days. And just like an overzealous thespian, you better act fast because this is a limited time offer. Either click the link in my description or scan the QR code on the screen to add the Capital One Shopping extension to your mobile and desktop browsers and begin your springtime shopping today.
Wait, if I can use that in the UK, I might get that as well. Could save me a bit of money.
On the
sales tax, yeah. I mean, yeah, something that I'll never understand, but it's just I guess how it's always been in the US, so it's just how it's always gonna be. But yeah, I'll never understand this one.
Subject of purchases, there's one major difference between shopping in the UK and shopping.
Because again, it just makes it hard to budget your shopping. If you've got a budget. Again, in the US, maybe you're so used to it, you know exactly what the tax will be for certain things, but then it's different from state to state. Confusing. Confusing, man.
Shopping in the United States. In the UK, you'll be used to walking through the shopping aisles and thinking, look at the price of that meat. It includes value-added tax. Isn't that amazing? Nobody actually does that. But that was my way of illustrating that in Britain, the price you see on the price tag is the price that you pay at the till. In America, which is still in this direction, this is not the case. In fact, the reason that I include this is that I discovered it as a visitor myself. During a visit to Portland, not the weird one, but the one in Maine, I bought a Beatles album because it's just something I do on every continent. And I was fairly happy to find that, oh, look at this. It's under $10. That is a bargain. So I take it up to the till, pull out a big $10 bill, not that big, all the cash is the same size, and say, here you go, have a bit of that, until she rings it up. And it says $11.57. All right, I'll pull out some coins. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it is a bit of a surprise when you first do it.
See other
One
places.
thing that stands out to me about people that visit the United States is that we do tend to visit the tourist hotspots. And this makes sense because they're tourist hotspots. They have the things you need like entertainment, shops. But we often forget that there are some lesser visited places that are also worthy of your time. Like, for example, Mackinac Island, which is not pronounced Mackinac Island. Or, instead of Orlando, Florida, check out St. Augustine, Florida. Said to be the oldest city in the United States and home to old Spanish architecture. Whatever it is, if you want to see America, don't be afraid to be a contrarian. It's okay to tell your friends back home, no, I didn't go to Las Vegas. We spent a week in Asheville, North Carolina, which is probably where the conversation will end, but you'll have had good memories.
Tipping.
Most people are probably aware that the United States has a tipping culture, much to the annoyance of cows. But that tipping culture also extends to restaurants and bars. And British people, for whom tipping isn't a requirement back home, are often confused about how much they should.
Thing is, they are trying to bring tipping in as like a mandatory, not mandatory thing here, but it's becoming more and more like common, pretty much. And it's one of those things where in the US, I understand that people need it to get money. In the UK, they got a full wage, and they're still doing it. So it's just like they must be getting decent money. To be fair, in the UK, if you're getting tips and you're working, getting your minimum wage, I think it's above minimum wage in some places as well, which has also been raised. You're getting decent pay for like doing that sort of service. Because I feel like a lot of people do tip in the UK, not as much in the as in the US, and not everywhere, but whenever you go somewhere now, you'll always be given a thing to tip before you pay. So it's like a thing that is now just becoming more and more common. So they must get very good money here in the UK. Obviously, you get more tips in the US, but you can have a lower wage. But yeah, it's one of those things you've got to get used to. I've never had it before. I've never been to the US, but when you go to touristy places, you're sort of somewhat expected to tip in some places. So I guess it's somewhat like that.
tip? Well, in a sit-down restaurant where servers come to your table, it is recommended that you tip between 15 and 20% of the bill. So if the bill reads $75, then you add on
$11.25 to 15.
$11.25 to $15. And Lawrence, would you do this at Burger King? And the answer is no, because I don't go in Burger King. But if I did, the answer would still be no, because fast food restaurants don't expect you to. I hope. Otherwise, I've been a complete for them.
Imagine a world where that changes and that's going to become a thing. That would be insane.
Last 16 years. And for a beer at a bar, it's a good rule of thumb to tip between $1 and $2. Just don't get so drunk that you forget this step, like I did 12 years ago at the Doubletree in Westminster, Colorado.
Wait, you tip after every beer? Is that what you just said? Or just you tip at the end, just $1 or $2? If you tip after every beer, god damn.
And finally, something that I've benefited from, both as a visitor and a resident of the United States, is this. Some Americans incorrectly assume that I'm smart just because of my accent. And what I'm saying to you is, use that to your advantage. In fact, this is especially true if you do visit the places that aren't necessarily tourist hotspots. You see, in major cities like New York or Chicago, a British accent is a dime a dozen, to the extent that nobody really asks me about my accent here. But back when I lived in Indiana, they treated me like royalty. But if you come here and say words like tomato, banana, water, Americans will absolutely love you, or think you have a weird diet. Either way, your accent alone is a good icebreaker if you're the sort of person who likes to be talked at. And if you're not, then don't talk.
Final
I
thought.
suppose a bonus piece of advice would be just have fun. America is a very surprising country with very surprising people. In fact, in part 2 of this series, I will be advising some of those people on what to know before visiting Britain. So click my bell.
Well, there we go. I am excited to see that. Haven't heard a cow tipping joke in a long time. Even though I'm neither a troll nor an upper, thanks for correctly pronouncing Mackinac Island correctly. You are truly becoming a Midwesterner. Well, there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. And yeah, let me know. I guess 7 things. Would you have other things involved here? Or would you say it's not as sort of important? I mean, I guess like, tipping. I remember my first reactions I did on this sort of stuff. And it was always based around like planning about where to go in the US, because people just initially come and assume they could go to most places when they just can't, because it's such a big country. I guess you can fly within the US, but then that's costly within itself, and I don't know, maybe you just don't want to fly again. It depends on what you're planning to do, but hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. Plus, you don't really see the country that much either. You want to sort of see the US. If you're going to the US, you want to drive, go on a road trip and stuff, you know. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.